Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Incessantly Seeking Season 2. Let's talk about love. Today, I have here Carmen Montgomery, who is going to share with us her experience of dating. Now, Carmen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And you live in New York City, right?
Unfortunately, yes. I'm just kidding.
Why do you say unfortunate?
It seems like it would be a great hunting ground for dating, but it seems to be just like a jungle full of crazies.
That's so good to say because people in LA are always like, oh, LA is so hard to date. And I'm like, I was in New York for 10 years and that wasn't easy either. So I'm glad you're here to in real time share that testimonial as well, because I think maybe it's a city thing.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at least New York, I mean, it's an island of a bunch of people, stacked on top of each other, and that's probably prone to make people a little crazy. But you do have a lot more people within walking distance, so your odds are a little better.
And it's a lot of people too. I mean, New York is densely populated. Hopefully there's some good real ones out there. So you're here today to tell us your latest dating experience. So you've had an experience dating what is the buzzword now, a narcissistic kind of guy. So why don't you walk us through the experience of that? How did you meet?
We met online on Tinder, and it was around the holidays when we met. So I was out of town and I was visiting my family. So our initial meeting was, through the app, and then we did some video chatting and everything was going great. It seemed like we had a lot in common, and we decided to meet once I was back in town. And so after New Year's, I believe, was when we finally met in person. And it was a wonderful first meeting. It was a really great venue. Where
Yeah,
he
tell
wanted
us
to
about
meet.
that first date. Tell us, walk us through that date.
Yeah, very cool speakeasy that I had never. I'm kind of new to the world of speakeasies, and this was one was like very nice, very sexy atmosphere. Um, he remembered what I like to drink, and the things about within my profile, and we, like I said, we just had seemed to have so much in common. The first conversations were just fantastic. Even at the end, there was a somewhat fairy tale-ish romantic kiss, so I'm thinking, oh, this is the one, this is it. Well, actually, at this point I wasn't thinking this is the one, but I was just thinking like, this is really great.
So I love what you mentioned about him remembering the things that you wrote on your profile, because I feel like as women, we're like, oh my God, look, he pays attention. He's listening to me. Like, he really cares. But these kind of narcissistic guys actually are very good at taking information from you and like actually using it to get you. So this feeling of like a first date and you immediately felt like, oh my God, this might be the match because we seem so in sync. It's like, it makes so much sense because I also have felt that way, but when you look back, you realize, was this really genuine? So you
Mhm.
had one date and then what happened?
So we continued talking from there. I'm trying to remember what happened. I believe he had a trip planned out of town. You know what? I'm trying to recall if we had one more date before he went out of town or not. I can't remember. Um, thank God, I think my mind is blacking some of this out to protect me. But but I think he had a trip planned out of town to Paris, and so I didn't see him for that week, I believe. But we were still, chatting back and forth. And I even said, oh, make sure to send, either I asked or he said, I'll make sure to send you pictures or something to that effect. So several days goes by and it's about time for him to be back in town. I thought, oh, he didn't remember to send the pictures. And then what do you know? Pictures start popping up and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he remembered. So so we're back talking again. Oh, I forgot to mention. So on that first date, he had told me about his travel coming up, and I was saying, oh, I would love to go. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I think my passport is expiring this year. And he said, oh, well, you have to make sure that it's done before 6 months because then they won't let you renew it. So when I got home from our first date, I looked at my passport and I saw when it expired. And I said, oh, yeah, we're in good shape. It doesn't expire until October. This is January. He goes, oh, great. Because I was just looking up flights.
Oh, that whole future faking of like, oh, let's go on some romantic vacation together, which really works, by the way. Like, that happened too with somebody I dated before our first date. He's like, let's go to the Maldives. And I'm pretty sure he took the next woman to the Maldives. But my reaction was like, I don't know you. I'm not going to go to a foreign country with a stranger. And then you get there, and what am I just supposed to, I don't know, sleep with you, be in a room with you? Like, I call that something else. I don't call that dating. So I'm like, if that's what you're into, I'm not the woman for you. But that's definitely something that impressed me, because I was like, whoa, look at this guy. He's willing to do that for me. How did you feel when he said that? He's like, oh, I'm looking up flights.
Again, I thought, oh my gosh, no one, trying to think, has anyone ever flown me to America? I don't think so. So I thought, oh my God, I'd never been to Paris before also. So then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is,
It'd be so romantic to have a
exactly.
Paris getaway.
It's like the most romantic city in the world. Oh my gosh, he wants to take me. He must really, want to sweep me off my feet. I don't know
And
why
then
we do this voice also when we
it's because of the Disney movies, like all the Disney princesses are all in this dress and they speak like this, and they're willing to give up their legs to like, or whatever, their tails to like be, human and live where they live or whatever. So there's this expectation that love has to be like a sacrifice or a sweeping off your feet, fairy tale experience. And I think that's definitely why we come like so dreamy, because
yeah.
we both did it, right? So that's funny. So, do you ever know if he actually went on that trip?
I mean, as far as I know, he claimed that he went for business. He sent pictures. Um, I was actually going to check the stamp on the pictures to see if they were from um actually the dates that he said. So let me see.
Yeah, I dated a guy once who sent me a like a shirtless picture. And this was 2019, 2020. And I'm like, oh, cool. We had just started dating. And then when I swiped up on the picture to see the date, it was actually from 2016. So I was like, oh, interesting. This must be like your own go-to, like shirtless photo to send to all the ladies. So I know the guys do that as well. So it's a curious thing. So Carmen is actually
Oh,
in
no,
real
no
time.
lens information.
No information,
Yeah.
which I find kind of sketchy too, but that might just be me. But yeah, maybe he's on to that as well, the fact that you can check the time and place stamps of the pictures.
Yeah. Oh well.
Well, I guess we'll never know on that. But now he's back and you guys are texting again.
Yes, so we're texting. He wants to meet for dinner after his martial arts class. So we meet for dinner again, great conversation. I even ask, what do you want to get out of the app, or what do you hope to get out of the app? And he says, oh, I want to get off the app. And, I really have to, I realize looking at a lot of these profiles, I have to be really careful because, I have a daughter and, I can't just be, dating these Instagram thoughts, and I have to be serious minded and things like that. So I'm thinking, oh, again,
Love
oh,
that.
he must see something in me, and we're even practicing our French at the table. And what else?
Wow, you're practicing your French at the table.
So things progressed from there. We finished dinner, and trying to think if there were any other things. We talked about like a few relationship things. I can't think of them at the moment. It'll probably come to me in a few minutes. But he walks me home. We're at the door. I was gonna kiss him goodnight, but then like my neighbors started coming out of the doors. I'm like, I don't want to be making out with someone in front of in the hallway. So I had to, come inside in the doorway. So we kind of, kissed a little there, but then, ended there. I think he was trying to convince me to move things along to the bedroom, but I did
Mhm.
not. So let's see. The next time I see him, okay, he's driving that weekend from and I hadn't talked to him in a day or two, so I was kind of going, oh no, I haven't heard from him. Maybe, I just of course, I'm blaming myself, thinking I did something wrong. Something's wrong. And he calls actually while I was talking to someone, and he was on his way back from visiting his daughter. And he's like, I just want to drive by. You know, we actually lived on the same street, coincidentally. And he's like, I'm about to drive by coming from the tunnel. And I just want to see your face. You know, if you just want to run downstairs and, you know, I can just, you know, say hi. And so I didn't, I'm like, oh my God, he just wants to see me. Like he doesn't even want like anything from me. He just wants to see my face. He just wants to see my face.
Like he misses you so much. Oh my God.
The funny thing is that we do this. Like we're
I
looking
know we
at
look
the
like
same
idiotic
stuff.
women. The funny thing is like we're such smart women who went to insane schools and like got great degrees. And then when it comes to love, yeah, our heads go up and our voices get high. And it's like this so weird because I really am convinced this is like the society buildup of like this like romantic rom-com movies. I'm actually setting out, I'm like, in the future, I want to make a lot of rom-com movies that are realistic. Like when these guys who are super romantic like this end up being crazy narcissists, and then instead of ending together, you realize like the triangulation and they go on to the next woman, you know, and you're like, oh, that's what happens out there.
Yeah. I think that's a hilarious idea. That's actually pretty funny.
Just do a
Trying to think.
disservice to the next generation. Like, let me not fool you guys on how this all works.
So the next date we went to a jazz club. We had talked about going to these jazz clubs and a couple places, speakeasies on our previous dates. So he planned everything out. He was all excited. We're there. Actually, yeah, I'm trying to think. I think he had did he have a taxi? Yeah, he had car service come and pick me up. And we went to the venue, to the jazz club, and he's like, oh my God, you're just so beautiful. I feel so lucky to be here with you. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Did he say
And
things like, you're everything I've always wanted?
exactly.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
So I mean, being but all the while being a total gentleman, chivalrous, very polite. This will play into how things go later. I just
And
had to
he's
make
a
sure to bring that
girl
up.
dad, so everybody's like, oh, he gets it.
That's a good point. So we go from there to like the speakeasy. A friend of mine who happens to be in the area ends up showing up, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this ruined everything. This, you know, girl like shows up with, you know, some guy and on our date, and you know, I'm just again blaming myself, thinking something about to go wrong. I did something wrong, and it turns out it was totally fine. He was totally fine with it. And I think, oh my God, like he must really like me that he, you know, put up with that, and he was, you know, fine with it and so gracious. Um, so let me think. Okay, so the next time we're supposed to go out, he says, "Why don't we do something low key, like at my house, at my place?"
Before we dive deep into that part, now give us kind of like how long has it been? How many dates have you been on that he's been this perfect gentleman?
Okay, we started speaking right around Christmas Day, but we didn't meet until I want to say um, January 3rd or something like that.
So how many dates have you been on until this moment?
So that's 4 dates.
And it's around March now, you said?
Yeah. No, this is still in January.
Oh, okay. So January was packed with like romance and all these dates and
It was a whirlwind, yes.
okay. And him like practicing French at the table with you. Did that friend's trip ever pop up again as a subject of discussion?
No, but we actually talked about doing a ski trip. I had a ski trip coming up with work. And so that was something that we had discussed. And I was even like shopping for ski jackets and trying to find like, you know, the best jacket. He was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. You can just wear one of mine. So,
And then what happened to the ski trip? Did he ever actually go?
well, that date would have been after our fourth date.
Got it. So got it. So let's hear it. I love this because when he was going on a date, he was trying on a trip to Paris. He was trying to include you in that, in this kind of future faking. And then you had your trip, and now he's trying to insert himself in your trip and saying
Well,
that
I invited him, but yeah.
right. And then he was gonna lend you things and all that stuff. So we're still with this, like, and it's been a whirlwind of a first month of dating. So now we're on the fourth date. Very exciting. What happens?
And I just realized I think we're only up to like January 15th or something like that. So
Yeah,
it's
so
not even
that's
a
an
whole month.
intense, and that's part of this experience of love bombing that I didn't really know either until I experienced it. Because it's so much attention, it's so much going on that you don't have a moment to stop and think, like, wait, this is not proportional with the amount of time we've known each other. Like,
Mhm.
this seems really intense. But again, with the movies, you're like, but that's how it happened in the movies. And then we don't consider that the movies have 90 minutes and they have to move the plot real quick. So otherwise, we don't have time. But I think that kind of also makes us confused on what the right pacing of the normal pacing of these relationships should be. And I was listening, talking to my neighbors here where I live at, and they're both just kind of, one of them has been married to her husband for 8 years. And then the other one, like, I think they just moved in a year ago, and one is a gay couple and one is a cisgender, couple. So it's interesting listening to their stories because they're all like, oh, it was so quick, we moved in so quick. And then the counterpart was like, no, actually we didn't move in until like it was almost a year after we were like actually official boyfriend and boyfriend. And the other one's like, oh yeah, I guess it was a lot longer than I thought. And then the cisgender couple was like, oh no, we moved in within 2 months. And I'm like, really? Because that sounds extreme. And she goes, well, it was more like 8 months. And I was like, all right, you guys got to stop lying to the single people about how fast this goes, because it leads to a lot of trouble. So
Absolutely.
fourth date, here we are.
Well, and I was also going to say one of my things is that I didn't have a lot of dating, like serious dating experience prior to this. So what you're saying about, people getting impressions of how things are supposed to be based on like movies and television shows and couples giving misinformation, and, people
Yeah.
giving misinformation, that's why like when each thing happens, as I'm telling you the story, I always in my mind, I'm like, oh wait, I did something wrong. That, I was supposed to do something, I'm always second guessing what was the correct thing to do because I kind of had like a limited experience with that. And then, my experiences that I did have, they did kind of move quickly. So I thought, okay, maybe this is just how it is, or something.
And the
And then I've also
experience,
been out of the dating loop for a while. I
right.
had been with my ex for, I'm trying to think, I want to say 3.5, almost 4 years. And then before that, I was with the previous ex for like 6 years or 7 years. So I was just kind of out of the loop completely.
Yeah, and that was my question to you, because you kept saying like how you kept second guessing and like, well, oh my God, did I do something wrong? But that makes a lot of sense. Like, I married my first boyfriend. I was a virgin. I had no experience in life at all, relationships, and we were together for 7 years. So, all of my like college experience, all of my adult 20s experience, my young 20s. So I never had this like dating craze thing, like let's go date everyone. It's also not in my DNA, I don't think. Like, I ended things with the last guy or whatever. We broke up and it's been a year, and I've had a couple of like, people I've dated since for a couple of months, but it hasn't been like, oh, let me just jump into this right away. Also, because when you date a narcissist, it's a very traumatic experience. And I think it takes a little bit of like, again, to regroup with yourself and be like, okay, wait, was my intuition right? Can I trust people again? And all that stuff.
Exactly. And one of the things we hadn't spoken about, but was that I did have a previous one of those two exes. One of them, I think, was might have had some issues there. So I don't want to like diagnose anyone, but so yeah, it was a very, I'll just say it was a very rough breakup. And so that's why it took me so much time to start dating again. And we broke up kind of right before the pandemic.
Mhm.
So, let's see, that's 2018, 19, and then 20. So this just happened this year. So just think that's 3 years, of not dating. So I was out of the loop. I wasn't used to, online dating. I met both of my exes in person. So that was another thing that I wasn't used to, the fact that, meeting random people on your phone,
I mean, I met my ex in person and it didn't matter. So there's also that. And I know a lot of people who've married out of Hinge or whatever dating site, so anything could happen is how I approach it. But
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about how the breakup happened with that ex, or you said that like there were things that were kind of concerning at that end, because it might kind of inform you on like why you end up believing someone that, put up this like love bombing show to begin with.
Yeah, I think it was because I didn't really date in high school and college. So I was probably like a little starved for attention or something. because of the environment where I grew up in the South, and I went to a predominantly white school, so I didn't really have like dating options or anything like that. So it was like, I was kind of grasping on to someone like, oh my gosh, that they like me. And I don't know, it was just, I think I needed it to be real.
Mhm.
I'll put it that way. So I think that was part of what played into me giving into the love bombing, is that like I also needed it to be real.
Yeah. And the idea of being chosen, right? He drove to your house just to see your face. Oh my God, he's choosing me. Sitting at a jazz club and be like, oh my God, you look beautiful. I'm so lucky to have here, to be with you here and all that stuff. Like it does make you feel
Finally being
chosen.
seen, feeling adored, being chosen, like all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, which we all want. We all, as human beings, I think we all want that. So it's a very normal feeling. Okay, so we're back to date 4. Let's hear what happens.
All right, date 4. So he calls and he says, let's do something like more low key, maybe at my place. I'm like, okay, I'm not really, wasn't really down for like a Netflix and chill type thing, but I thought I can control myself. Well, I will try to just keep it PG. And so I go, he orders food, we're on the couch. Of course, things start heating up. One thing is, leading to another. It starts moving into the bedroom. Things are about to progress to its, I don't know, end. And and I kind of said, oh, I also had him like put on protection just in case things, progress. In my head, I knew that I didn't want it to go there. He didn't know that. Anyway, so when things got to that point, I kind of said, wait, stop. And which he did, to his credit. And so he was just trying to figure, why not? I knew, because I knew I was about to get my period, and I didn't want like unpleasant happen. I knew like any minute, now it was going to happen. So um we, kind of finished up there and just went back into the living room, and we're having dinner, and he's kind of being a little salty, acting a little some type of way, as I say. And I said, are you okay? Are you upset? And he was like, oh, I don't want to get you too excited, because I know what happens when you get excited, you start teasing. And I'm like, no, I wasn't teasing at all. Like, I was like, I am very, attracted. Then he was like, are you not attracted to me? I was like, no, I'm very attracted to you. It's just like the timing. I want things to be right. I didn't go into like detail. I also was having like a medical condition. I have a fibroid tumor, and I just found out about it that week. And so I didn't want to, that was also like a factor. That was probably the primary factor, like in the back of my mind. So,
And 4 dates in, that's kind of early to tell someone, oh, by the way, I might have this tumor thing I have to get removed, but don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a
that
lot.
that was exactly what it was. It was just like, it was so soon. I didn't, I hadn't figured out how am I going to explain that. Would that sound weird to someone, to a guy? I mean, I think to women, like it's so ubiquitous and common, for women to have fibroid tumors that, if you tell someone, oh, okay, got it, get it. But like for them, they'd be like, I don't know what that means. What do you mean? You have to have
Right.
surgery, and like,
But I also
so.
feel like it's a good point, because if you don't feel comfortable telling someone something like that is intimate, then you're probably not ready to have sex with them. You're just not, because if you were, then you'd say to them and they would, whatever reaction they were going to have. So, but I like that you mentioned a little bit that he asked you whether or not you were attracted to him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
he
he
was
was
feeling
very,
insecure.
yeah, he was very concerned about that. And I kept like explaining, like, no, that was not the case. And it really wasn't the case. I mean, I was telling him, like, it took everything in me not to, like, I'm very attracted to you. So he just couldn't comprehend, like, why. He thought it was some type of teasing or playing a game or whatever. So we sit down, we're eating the food. He's still kind of being salty, but whatever. I remember at one point there were some type of like chocolate desserts, and he was like, I went to eat it, and he was like, yeah, you should put something in your mouth. And I was just like,
What? He had that to you?
yeah. And I was just like, and at the time I was, I kind of joked with it, kind of like in a sexy way, was like eating whatever the chocolate, but in my mind, I was never thinking like, there's no way he's really this salty right now, or like
Yeah, and
meaning
it's
this
a
to be
shock.
nasty. Like I was just like, there's no way. So we finished watching the thing that we were watching on TV, and I had actually changed into like a t-shirt and sweatpants when I got there because I was like, super dressed up, and he had just come from his class, so he was in sweats. And when he actually had fell asleep, like watching the thing, so I said, "Oh, I'll just go. You know, it's fine." He was like, "No, no, no. How much is left on the movie?" It's like, "Oh, it's got 15 minutes left." He goes, "No, no, no. You know, just stay, keep watching." You know, he's even holding my hand. I'm thinking, okay, everything is fine. When it finishes, I go, I change it back into my clothes. I come back. He's like, "Okay, just let me know when you're ready to go because the Uber will be here like probably any minute." He packs up the food. Says, "Here, you can take the food with you too." So I was like,
And
"Oh,
then
okay,
you feel
thank you."
like, oh, he cares about me if I'm gonna have food tomorrow. Oh, things are back on
Exactly.
track.
Exactly. Everything's on track. Everything's good. He's like, "Oh, next," he's like, "Oh, you look so sexy in those boots. Next time we're going to do this, this, and this." And I'm like, "Okay, there's a next time and everything's fine." He's like, "I'll call you tomorrow." Okay, good. I go down, I get in the car, go home.
Now
The
let's
next
stop
morning.
there real quick because I
Mhm.
just want to recap what you said. So this is the fourth day and you've never been to this man's house before.
Correct.
You agree to go and you get there and you change into comfy clothes, which he gave it to you. Great. You're having another date like anyone else. And it's just like watching movies and eating food. And then you get hot and heavy. You start fooling around. But you decide for your own personal reasons that you're not ready yet to cross the line and having sex with him. Granted,
Mhm.
it's somebody you've known now for a month, right? Or a month and a half. So makes a lot of sense.
No, well, I mean, I've been speaking to him since the end of December, but we had only been dating since the first week of January.
So it's 2 weeks or something. So it's definitely really fast, which totally reasonable that you'd have your wishes to slow things down. Now, when you do that, the first thing he does is get incredibly insecure and then ask
Mhm.
you to validate him and ask whether or not you find him attractive, which you profusely do, which makes it
Mhm.
so bad. Then he's changing his behavior and treating you in a salty way. And he even makes a comment to you that you should put something in your mouth, which is kind of like if any man like on a date said that to me too, I'd be like, nah, you're not for me. But when you're so involved with someone in a case of love bombing, I think the first reaction is, did this really happen? Because I've been in that position
Mhm.
too of like, wait, this person would never talk to me like this, but then they do it, and you're like, wait, did it just happen? So you feel like there's
Mhm.
cognitive dissonance. And then after that, he goes back to being nice and caring and being like, oh, I'll call you tomorrow. We'll do this other thing next time. So you feel like there was a conversation had and the feelings were addressed and you're back on track. Okay.
Oh, I forgot to say, he even said, because he was like, "Why would you, not want to?" And then I kind of made the um, remark referring to something that he said on our second date. I said, "I thought you were playing the long game."
Oh, what did he say?
I don't remember. Probably silence. I
Interesting.
know.
But now he's blaming you and he's like acting salty and needing like reassurance and affirmation. And then he's making like offensive remarks. But then seems like he gets over it and things are back on track. And the guy who was playing the long game now has no words when you bring back the point he made.
Mhm.
So before we continue, what did you say on your profile? Did you say you were looking for a relationship or did you say anything?
Hmm. I don't recall, but I know that when we had that first date, I'm sorry, that second date, that I did say I was looking for a relationship, for a long-term relationship, ending in marriage. I do recall saying that.
And he agreed
Yes.
that he wanted the
He
same thing.
didn't say that he wants the same thing. He just ag agreed with my statement.
Which is
Does that make
interesting.
sense? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
because it's
Yeah.
interesting also in
Yeah.
retrospect. You're like, whoa, when the person nods and says agree, you think, oh, they want the same, but maybe he just say, oh, I agree that that's what you want. So maybe we jump to conclusions on that sense as well. All right. So now you leave with the food, you're in your Uber, and what are your thoughts?
See, now you have me thinking I need to put it on my profile. Um, So, I leave, I go home. The next morning, I send a message saying, "Good morning, hope you have a great day." And, because I wanted us to get to to talk about what had happened. He responds like 2 hours later. I'm in the middle of working, and I just remember the message coming in, and it said, thank you, Carmen, which he never says my name, usually like that, but he's like, thank you. It's been great. Let me see if I can find it exactly.
Oh yes, let's read these messages in real time, girl.
Oh my gosh.
And that's something we do with our friends too. We're like, what do you think he meant by this? And we're like sharing,
Oh my
it's like
God.
group texting in a whole different level.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So I said, thanks. I appreciate you coming over last night. I think you're great, and I've enjoyed the time we've spent together. That said, I think we're looking for different things.
Uh,
So, I mean, I just almost like threw up like at my desk. I'm just like, oh my God, what's happening? What, I can't believe this. I messed everything up. I have to fix this. I have to fix this. I'm calling my friends. We're all frantic because like everyone at this point is invested in this. They think like this is some fairy tale situation. This is the one, this is the guy. Everyone's banding together to analyze the message, analyze everything that's happened before, figure out the perfect response. I immediately said, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not sure what you think I'm looking for. I really think it would be better to have a quick chat to clarify any confusion.
mm-hmm.
I was
Like
like, I
adult.
am very attracted to you. Last night just took me off guard. I do want to have a physical relationship, and I almost did. I just wanted to discuss some things before, we pulled the trigger. No response, no answers. And then I was like, are you up for a brief chat tonight? Today, no response. Then that night, all of us like conspired together to come up with an answer. And I still never got any response. Then I even said, after talking to some of my male friends, they explained that, maybe what I did could have been like very confusing or.
So let's stop right there. So he didn't respond. You went on ahead to like have this conversation with your friends, but you have male friends who said that maybe he was right on his behavior.
Yeah, they were just saying that like, maybe, for a guy like he felt rejected. They still thought he should have responded, but they thought, maybe because you're not that far in, or maybe he wasn't invested enough to care enough to even have the conversation. It was just easier to cut ties and move on, was their input based on him not responding.
And I love what you said, because this no response in these narcissistic relationships always leads to the other person who've been love bombed to try to fix it, because they always make it your fault. It's something that you did. It's something that you did wrong. So then you're like, well, if I did it wrong, then I can, course correct that behavior. And if I can change my behavior, then it's fixed. And then the relationship is going to be great. So it's so manipulative when he was like, I think we're looking for different things. And I find it so interesting. And I love that you're reading the actual messages, that you went back to like reassuring him, no, I find you attractive. That has nothing to do with you. Like, I just wasn't ready for that then. And now your male friends are advising you that maybe he may have some reason here that might be rational. So you messaged him again after how long after him not responding?
Oh, I mean, like once that afternoon and then once that night.
No
And
response. And
no
then
response.
you talk to your friends. Did you try again the next day?
So I said, I'm going to give it, I think a day or two. And then I actually called him and left like a heart, wrenching voicemail, apologizing. I realized like, actually, I wonder if I have it here on my phone. I actually typed the whole thing out so I could
Oh
be
my
very
God. I hope
personalized.
you have it, because I'd love to hear that. Because we really, and now you're apologizing for something you didn't do. It's so crazy. You're apologizing for the fact that you've met this man for less than a month. You've known him for 2 weeks, and day 4, you didn't want to have sex with him. And now you're apologizing for that. So it's amazing how we get so lost of track. It's so confusing. These relationships are really very confusing, because there's no time for you to sit and think, this doesn't fit with how much we've been spending time together, of how well we know each other.
I'm I think I deleted it this weekend because I just got angry looking at it on my phone. It's like, I can't believe I did that.
Anger means you're moving on.
I know, but I mean, every once in a while, we'll get to that. But I was gonna say, it's still, every once in a while crosses my mind, that maybe if I'd done this, or like I still wonder, but in a way, like we'll get to it because now, um, after he never responded and I left a voicemail and he didn't respond to that. And then for a while I thought, oh, maybe he never got the messages. Maybe I was blocked, because I also noticed that the same day that he sent me the Dear John letter, he also unmatched me on the dating app. So I'm just like, he wants nothing to do with me. So it's possible he just blocked me altogether and he's not getting any of these
That's
text
true.
messages, he's not getting any of these calls. So then I'm just really upset, like, oh my gosh, like I never got a chance to, plead my case and explain what was happening, why I did that and that it wasn't anything he did. And, you know, anyway, so that was in January. In March, I remember that it was his birthday. So I decided to send a text message and I just said, happy birthday, fellow Pisces, be well. I was actually on a flight at the time when I sent it, so I never saw, I lost service and I didn't have service again until after I landed and I was flying across country. So this is, 5 hours later or something. And I open my phone and there's a message from him. Hi, kiss face, kiss face, how are you? So I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I did it. Like,
I
I was alive to
crafted
see.
the perfect message and it changed everything.
Looking up at the sky. I was like, yes. So I didn't respond that night because it was like 1 a.m. by the time I landed. So the next morning I sent a message, saying I'm doing well. I'm actually, traveling for my birthday. So then he's, oh, is it something, with music? Because he knows that I sing. And let me see. I'll see if I can actually like find these messages. But it seems like he's all on the up and up. Oh, come
Now
on.
he's his loving self again, like nothing happened. In February, you heard nothing, you had no communication, but you were still ruminating, like, how could I have done things differently? Why is this happening?
I mean,
What
I was
happened
crying
to
my
him?
eyes out that day. Like I thought I had just like killed the dream, destroyed my dream relationship, my guy for me. This was it. And I messed it all up. I ruined it. Um, so okay, so I told him, yeah, and do well, da, da, da. I asked him how his birthday was, and he's like, have fun, and let's try to get things restarted when you're back in town. Kiss face.
Oh my God, you're like, this is it.
And
I fixed it. Yes, we're back on. Let's go.
so I'm like, I'm trying to be a little cautious because I still need to know.
Of course.
Did you get my messages? Why did you never answer?
Did you ask him?
What, so I'm trying to get to that. So I said, I'll let you know when I'm back in town. Oh, I said, okay, enjoy your birthday week with a kiss face. I'll let you know when I'm back in town. So he said,
Normal.
great, he's all excited. So as soon as I get back, or no, told him that what I'd been up to. When I got back, I said, hi, and I'm back in town, totally wiped out from my flight. How was your weekend? He's like, hi, my daughter came and this and that, da da da. And then how was, when is your birthday? Because he knew my birthday was coming up. So I was like, oh, that's great. Did you guys do this and that? I'm trying to, be a normal person, ask him about his daughter. I told him when my birthday was, and I did see pictures of what appeared to be his daughter at his house. So, I mean, for now, we'll say
You
that he
think
has a
that's
daughter.
okay. Although, like, let's preface this that this man is Googleable. Like, you
Yes,
would double check this information online, so he
yes,
wasn't
yes,
really lying about who he was.
exactly, exactly. So, then the conversation suddenly changes from what he and his daughter did to the next time I come up to your apartment, am I going to be able to see the rest of it, or will I be confined to pinning you against a door and getting blue balled with a something face? I don't know what you call that with the like tongue
The little
sticking out.
tongue sticking out. I'm like, my God, this man ignored you for a whole month, and then all of a sudden now he's just like straight to don't give me blue balls, like
Yeah.
blaming you for that behavior.
Mhm.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, next time you're there, you'll see more than, a door. And then he's like, how about a preview? it's somewhat of a slow day at work and I could use the buildup. Just like, ew.
So you sent him a picture of your bathroom because he wanted to see the rest of the apartment.
Well, I wasn't even home. I was actually at work. So I mean, had I been home, that would have been hilarious.
Ooh,
See
can I
the
have a
kitchen.
preview? Sure, here's the bathroom. You'll see the rest of it maybe one day.
So I so in response to that, I said, I bet you could. And then I said, why'd you ask about my birthday? And he said, because at minimum, I want to wish you a happy birthday when it happens. And I'm like, okay, then I
Oh,
said,
he's
at
such a nice
maximum.
guy.
And so he's like pinned up against your apartment door from behind. It's like, okay. So
What?
I said, so I'm like, interesting proposition. Let's discuss this week over dinner or a drink on Wednesday or Thursday. And he goes, interesting, lame. And I said, ouch. He goes, you're supposed to say it's hot, not interesting. And so I'm still trying to play along with this. I'm like, it's all in my voice. It's hard to convey in a text.
Mhm.
But you're pretty bossy today. I'm trying to decide if I like it, with a wink face. And then he goes, I'm just feeling you out if you're up to your old games.
Wow. So now he's being rude. He's telling you you're playing games. I mean, do you see all the like manipulation strategy, right? First, he tried to play the sexy thing and you weren't really buying it, but you were like, hey, take me on a date and maybe we can talk about this. Then he doesn't do that, which was a great invitation, really, for you and setting your boundaries. Then he just goes, oh, you're just going back to your old ways, which is trying to manipulate you to cross your own boundaries and just like have sex with him, which is somebody who hasn't even talked to you for like a whole month. That's
And
crazy.
hasn't even apologized for like not answering, like nothing.
Yeah, or address what happened before in
Or,
a mature way. Like, hey, this is how I felt. Like, what do you really want? Which is what you wanted, right? It's like you called him to be like, let's have this conversation of what you want for the future. Maybe we don't want the same thing, but maybe you do.
so he's like, if you're up to playing your old games. I said, I don't play games. He said, at this point, you should just ask me to come over midday.
Oh, so that was what he was trying to do, is to
Mhm.
convince you to feel so bad that you just will have sex with him in the middle of the day.
I guess so. And so
Wow.
I said, at this point, like I really was just like, I don't want to believe that like this is happening. Like, does he mean like at this point, like in our dating, or at this point because of what happened? Like wasn't clear. I mean, one could be better than the other, and they're still both kind of icky, but one at least is like entitled to something, and then the other is saying like, because of, you know, what happened, you owe me. You like
I think
what.
entitled is such a great word because either scenario that you just mentioned, it feels like he owes you owe him, but you don't,
Mhm.
you know?
Or that, we've been talking for a while, or that it seemed like we were almost there from before. So I don't know. Anyway, so I
Yeah,
said
we
at
could
this
guess forever.
yeah. So I'm like, at this point, and he goes, please lose my number. You're a waste of time.
What?
I was like, what? Oh my God. Like, I got up from my desk. Like, I just couldn't even like work. Like, I just got up and like walked away. I was like, I can't believe this is happening again. I can't believe this. I was like, wow, are you serious? Because I actually stepped into like an office and called. I was like, are you serious? Because I asked what you meant. Really did not think you were like this. As I said, I don't play games. I thought we were having like some funny banter today and going to do something about it. Are you seriously angry? And I was like, call me back. And then, he didn't answer those messages. So I said, wish granted, goodbye. I really can't believe this is who you are. And that was the but the great thing was, before we reconnected like that, my wish, and this is what I told my friends, I said, I just want to be vindicated. I want to know who he really was,
Mhm.
and that it wasn't, if it was or wasn't my fault. I just want to know, but I need to feel vindicated about what happened, that it wasn't me. And then that was what happened.
Yeah. And I feel like people really show their colors, they really do. And people make mistakes, of course. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like everybody has to be perfect or you walk away. And I think we live in a culture where we do walk away too soon. But even just listening, once you get out of it and you listen to those messages and you read them again, it's like, whoa, look at all this manipulation. And then like he's trying to make you feel bad. He's really actively trying to make you feel bad.
Yeah, it wasn't so much like what happened the first time. I can understand people getting in their feelings. People aren't perfect. They have insecurity. So, I mean, I was still willing to be like, you know what? Like, we all make mistakes. Maybe something's happened in the past that makes them like triggered about things like that. And it was just easier to just like, she has some type of hang up or something. Let me just get away from her. That's what I was feeling was happening. So I was like, I need a chance to explain. I didn't respond. I should have told him in that moment what it was, but I also had an insecurity. He was insecure. We just were two people being insecure, but we can fix this. But then after he responded like that, our second time around, I was just like, who does that? Like, that's so cruel. Like, I could never be with someone who would be so cruel as to tell someone they're a waste of time.
Yeah. And the disrespect
Mhm.
of talking to you, like put things in your mouth. Are you going to give me
Yeah,
balls? Like, this is not something you talk about with somebody that you've known for a month, or even that he treated you a certain way in those dates. And I love that you described in the beginning how gentleman he was and how like very polite, he was. And I love that too. And I had a similar experience. Like when things fell apart, that person I was dating became this cruel person. And I'm like, who? And I remember saying to him, who are you? Are you the guy who like is the kindest, nicest man I've ever met, which is why I fell in love with you? Or are you this like cruel, horrible person? And his
Mhm.
response, like, well, I just checked out. I'm like, but that's not an excuse. The fact that you can like dissociate from other people in this way, it's terrifying. Like,
Exactly.
where if you have a kid with someone and then they just decide, oh, I know, I checked out. What? Like, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like, well, you have a kid now. You can't just fucking check out. That's not how life works. You know
Yeah,
what
so
I mean?
that was the frightening point to me part to me that like he like flipped like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde into like this person. I'm like, you never talk to me like that. Like, why are you being like this? Why, like, when did you lose respect for me? Like, that's what I wish I would have said. Like, what did I do to make you so lose respect for me that you would talk to me like this?
But I think that's
And
even
if I do ever, I'm sure he'll pop up one of these days. If he ever does, that'll be what I'll say. Like,
yeah, and they always do. So I would say, yeah, have those on your notes, whatever is your message ready. But I just say that, like, that's even the wrong question because it wasn't anything that you do. And I think that's what people in these situations and everybody in the world really needs to realize. Like, we can't do things that will turn other people cruel. Like, this man that I dated did horrendous things to me. Like I've stopped talking to people for much more like little things than what he did. And I still treated him with respect,
mhm.
with I mean kindness, like as I would any stranger on the street, So it's like you can't make people cruel. Like they're just those people, and
Right.
the
Yeah, it's not that I think that I did something, but I want him to think about the question.
mhm.
Like, did I, like, what a cruel thing to do to someone who, like, did I do something so awful to make you see me so differently? What did I do? Yeah.
Well, but I think it comes to the lack of empathy, which a lot of these
Right.
like narcissistic people have. It's like the only person they care about is themselves, and that's it. So
Mm.
I would love for these people to think, oh my God, I hurt somebody else. Let me apologize. But even when the apology comes, it's like, well, I feel bad and I want to feel better. So I'm just going to apologize. And it's not even apologizing like, oh, I hurt your feelings and you didn't deserve it. It's like, oh, no one deserved that. And whatever. I just hoping that this gives me the absolution that I need. And even that is like so skewed. So
Mhm.
I feel like you got so lucky. Just it took a month or two of your life instead of a year or two of your life. And what are you up to now? Are you back on the dating field?
Yeah, you're definitely right. Like, even my therapist, and a couple of my friends were like, I actually think you dodged a bullet. And this was back before this, that text exchange. This is, back in January when everything first fell apart. And they were like, I don't know if you should try to talk to him again. Like, I think you dodged a bullet. So when that happened, I was like, they were right. I'm sorry, but what was your question?
But yeah, but I think sometimes we do need the confirmation in these
Mhm.
narcissistic relationships for sure, because there's so much questioning that we do for ourselves, like, oh, what if I've done things differently? And then you do things differently and the result is the same, and you're like, oh, then it's not me. So I think that
Right.
helps you move on. So yeah, are you back on the dating pool is what I'm
I'm
wondering.
back on the scene. I'm back out there. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just kind of talking to a couple people that I actually met in person, not even online. And I'm considering even just deleting the apps for a
Yeah.
little bit because that was kind of a lot. I trust my judgment in person with people a lot more. And that's another thing that I feel like I'm learning to trust myself and not depend so much on like asking people, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like,
Mhm.
from that experience, I feel like I learned to, to stop second guessing myself and that nothing, I'm not the type of person that something that I would do would just turn someone away. And, so stop second guessing myself, just kind of, be confident, have fun with it. If they say that I'm not for them, you know, ask them, if they'll answer even, but, be confident enough to ask them and to, kind of be straightforward, more straightforward about things. In retrospect, I would have told him, about the surgery that was coming up and things like that. So it's kind of taught me to really believe in myself and believe in my intuition again. And yeah, I'm actually very excited about that. Like, I feel really good about that.
And I think that's like a wonderful place to stop, because like you, I agree. There has never been a time that I look back and I thought that felt a little weird. Something here is off, and that I was wrong about that.
Mhm.
100% of the times my intuition was like, something about this person doesn't match up, or something about this person doesn't add up. And you're like, then you look back and you're like, oh, I could have avoided all of this if I have listened to that little voice, telling you like, yeah, bitch, like get on, keep going. Like something here is just not right.
Yeah, or even, let people disqualify themselves.
Mhm.
Be willing to let them go. Like you said, they'll probably turn up again. Like, and if they really do, like the guys, like what's funny is like the guys that I think nothing of it. I don't put Disney fantasies and fairy tales on them. I just think they're just any but random person on the street, even though I've known them for a long time. But I'm not that invested, maybe in the situation. They'll just keep coming back and keep coming back, and I just keep saying no, and they just keep coming back. But the ones that we're hanging all of our hopes on, and we're trying to hitch our wagon to them, to their star, and just like, oh my god, this is the one. Like, I feel like we over I put too much on those, and it's like you push them away with all of your overthinking and overanalyzing and trying to be this and trying to be perfect and trying to please them and trying to figure out what's wrong and trying to fix it and trying to it's like stop trying. That was my lesson from this. Like, stop trying. Like, it shouldn't be this hard. It should be fun. It should be like meeting a new friend. It should, this person is at the end of the world. They're not going to save you. No one's going to save you. There is no white knight coming to rescue you from the tower. Like, that's not what's happening. It's just two people enjoying each other, having fun, and moving forward in the relationship. So that was what I learned from this experience, to just stop hanging my hopes on these people and looking at them as someone that's gonna save me,
Exactly. And if it feels like that, if it feels like they're going to be your knight in shining armor or whatever, it's because they're also playing that game. They're playing into what they know you want. They've learned from your app, your Instagram, your whatever, what it is that you're looking for, and they're playing that game. So people say if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. But I like to give people, again, the benefit of the doubt, which could be a very, very dangerous like sentence. But it's like, you said, like, yesterday I saw a couple of my friends play music at a bar, and it was like they're just two best friends, and she makes remarks and jokes, and he laughs, and he makes remarks and jokes, and she doesn't feel like, what the fuck did you say that for? You know what I mean? That doesn't happen, because they're not like, it's not you or me. It's like, we're friends. You don't behave that way with our friends. Like, we let them in because we believe that they have our backs. And it's like, when you try to defend yourself, it becomes kind of that war zone of a situation. But I was watching them and I was laughing. I'm like, that's what I want, and no one is out there to save each other. They're out there to help each other, like live out their lives and their dreams. And I love that. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's such a great lesson. It really is.
Yeah. And
Like
the
you,
people that we line up with, like, just think of all the people that you know, are your friends or that you just feel like you click. You aren't constantly thinking, did I do the right thing? Was that okay? Was that right? You know, you're just like, they're gonna get it. We're on the vibe, they'll get it, you know, or and if there's a problem, they'll say something to me and we'll clear it up and it'll be fine. Like you shouldn't be constantly second guessing every little thing you do. Like just learn to trust ourselves again.
yeah, and people who care about you, they will have a conversation. They will try to work it out. And I try to think about that a lot. I'm like, what is for me won't go away. Like they won't do that. Like that's not, I love this American idea of the one that got away. I'm like, if they're the one, they wouldn't have gone away. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Hmm.
So I think we have to stop with this romanticizing of the people who don't choose us and walk away. It's not about us, it's really about them, because I remember that saying. I think it's so true. People show you who they are by the way that they walk away.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before, but that says it all. Yeah.
that's how you know who somebody is, when they're not trying to get anything from you and they don't want anything from you. Let's see who people really are by the way that they decide to like walk away. And we learned from your story that, man, you deserve so much better.
Yes.
Well, thank you so
Oh,
much
and
for
the
being
oh,
here.
I'm sorry. One more thing was that
Yeah,
it was
please.
interesting that the first time that he walked away, he was a gentleman, kind of, even though he kind of ghosted. But that the second time, it was just it was like he was on a mission to hurt me, and
Mm.
that he maybe never was planning to meet with me in person. He just wanted to get my hopes up and then hurt my feelings. That's also a possibility.
That could be. Maybe he was trying to give you a little taste of what you did to him.
Exactly.
I didn't think of that, but I think in these narcissistic guys, it's revenge is definitely something that they want for sure, to kind of get back at you. And then it didn't work and he got even more mad. But, don't say that that was a nice thing to do. Like ghosting is incredibly hurtful. And I think the silent
Mm.
treatment is so damaging to people, especially like we all come from different types of childhoods. But as we established earlier in this chat, we all want to be seen.
Mhm.
And when you're dealing with that and somebody just ignores you, there's nothing more hurtful. So that he already had proven he wasn't a nice guy. The second time around was just confirmation, like you said, you wanted, and you got it. I'm so happy. And for same thing for me, I'm like, the second time around, I was like, oh, you're really not who I remembered you to be. And this is why this ended. And I'm like, we good, boo. Good luck. And I feel just bad. I remember when that relationship ended, one of my friends was like, the sad thing is that this man shouldn't be allowed to go out and do this again with someone else. And I remember thinking, fuck, that's real. Like, and I'm
Someone should make a list.
yeah. Well, there are some websites and some Facebook groups where you can join, where women, as I mentioned to you, they post photos and ask the other women if they know anything about those men. So there are ways that we have been finding for each other to protect each other. So that's been pretty interesting.
Oh, wow. But thank you so much for letting me share this story. And it's been a long road, even though it's only been a couple months.
But I think this is the motto of 2023. It's been such an interesting year already.
Absolutely. But yeah, I hope that someone got, or that all of the, viewers got something out of it and, learned that it's not you, it's them.
Exactly. It's definitely not you, it's them a lot of the times. So Carmen, where can we find you if we want to connect with you?
Oh, sure. So I actually have a YouTube channel called Karma Meets World, and it's about women expanding their dating horizons and finding love abroad. And
Ooh,
yeah, so check it out. Karma Meets World on YouTube.
awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Luciana.